Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Carrie. It is Thursday at 6:30 a.m. and I'm at David's house in Middleborough. A surprise visit overnight, which is always so lovely when you don't live with the person that you love. Good morning. It's either Janice or Beth or maybe somebody else joining us today. But, well, I've had such an amazing week. I hosted Rachel as a VIP client, and the breakthroughs and the transformation and the vision and all of that and the plan, it was just so incredible. It was such an incredible experience for both of us and for my children. And it truly showed me what's possible, to be able to continue to host and open up my home to moms who are looking to transform their everyday mom stress. And it is so much more. This process is so much more than learning the tools to be able to. It's like a new story that we can tell about our stress, and we can use our stress as actually the opportunity to be able to, excuse me, the opportunity to be able to gain our power back. And when we realize that, everything in our life is causing a certain level of friction, and it's causing an internal response, then we can actually, become the owner of that. Good morning, Janice. So I'm really just going to continue to talk into the method that I personally use and personally have had massive transformation using this method of being able to transform my stress. And that all starts with owning it. For a long time, I blamed my life and my circumstances on everybody else. And it was that change that happened that I started to take ownership over my own stress. And as soon as I started taking ownership over my own stress, I took back my power and I was able to do something about it. If I was blaming other people for my stress, there was no way that I could change it, because you can never change anybody else. You can only change you. Okay, and that's what is so important. And I believe that a lot of what's happening in the world right now with families, with parents worrying about their children, worrying about the future, it can really all be changed by you taking back your power. And so the second step that I've talked about, so the first step that that I just brought up was taking ownership over your own stress. And you actually want to, there's a certain level where you want to actually welcome that in and just be aware that the stress is knocking on my door for a reason. And it knocks on your door for a reason until you actually accept it. And accept it as part of you, accept it as what is in your path. And then you take more ownership over it, right? And so you actually have to be able to open a doorway up to be able to say, what is this stress trying to tell me? What is this stress trying to show me? And by doing that, again, you're bringing it more and more to you, more and more to the light. And when you do that, you grow stronger, right? And so eventually you get to choose how you want to take action in that stress. And there's always a pathway. There's always opportunity to grow through the stress. And so some of the big stresses that I talk about and I share about and personally have overcome have been stress in the form of relationships with, with my former spouse, relationships with money, relationships with my children, and relationships with my parents. I don't really even add siblings into that because I have always had an amazing adult relationship with my siblings. But, you know, when I did take a look at my stress when I was younger, less conscious, less mature, I blamed a lot of my stress on the past. And also a lot of my stress came from not knowing about the future and being really scared about the future. And what happened is it took me out of present moment living. And that's really the next steps that I want to talk about is what are the action steps you can do once you have taken ownership of your stress and not blamed others. Once you have felt the feeling, and feeling the feeling actually brings it more power to you, and process the feeling. And this is something that, I just sat with my client yesterday, and I said, this is a really important process. And I could see her start to think about what that might look like, right? Feeling the feeling. Well, if our feeling is rage and anger, we need not be afraid of what that looks like, because we actually have to process through that. And this is where a lot of people stop, because they're actually afraid of themselves. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of being viewed as, somebody who is losing their mind or something like that. But it's called Permission to Be Human. And I talk about him, Tal Ben-Shahar, a lecturer at Harvard University, says that you can't actually experience the bliss and the joy that should be experienced in life if you're not fully experiencing the pain. And so that's a tough one. That is a tough one, but it's absolutely necessary. So once that happens, you are able to have clarity, because it actually clears out the feeling with the action. And kids are really good at this. If you ever watch a baby or a child, my 2.5-year-old processes through anger and frustration by crying or having a temper tantrum. Luckily, she doesn't have too many temper tantrums, but even my older kids, and I actually, to give our family a lot of credit, we've processed through a lot of our own old emotional baggage that came from being in a family that the structure was not loving. And and the first thing I did was take ownership of where I wasn't showing up in a loving way, and process through my own love wounds, my love injuries. And so once that happened, I gave my children permission to be able to do that with their own life. Excuse me. And so I'm just going to take a sip of coffee. It probably should be water, but there we go. And so the next thing that is super duper important is declaring what you want. When we have things that go on in our life that cause us stress, and we take ownership of them, and we feel the feeling, we process the feeling all the way through, we clear space inside of us, in our mind, in our body, in our soul, to be able to bring in the things that we want. So, case in point, when I had a really tough beginning of the week, because there was a lot of pressure. I felt a lot of pressure, a lot of uncertainty, and I was taken out of the present moment, which always causes me stress. But once I processed through the stress by being really, really real, and I wrote about it, like I had a meltdown in the parking lot at Whole Foods, and I was hungry and I should have gone in to eat, but I just really needed to cry. And it didn't last very long. And when I got home, I sat down and I got really real. It's like, what do I want? And I wrote down a list of probably 15 things that I want to create in my life, that I want to bring to life. And then I got busy with a plan as to how to make it happen, because stress never goes away. It doesn't. It can be used as the catalyst for transformation. And I know this to be true because this is the only way that I got from where I was as a mom, even a year ago to where I am right now as a mom. And it's like light and day. It's just, or night and day. It's and it's an extraordinary gift to be able to number one, give this to you right now, but to be able to look back on where I was at the time, and then where I am now and where my children are, and I want to bring it all back to parenting and how this type of transformational work really just is all about transforming your mom stress, which mom stress can be job related, it can be relationship related, it can be related to our children and what our children are personally going through. And it it's all part of it. It's all part of what has been actually put in front of you. And if each of the stressors can be looked at as doorways of opportunity for growth, then we take a little bit of pressure off ourselves. The other thing that I hear the bird, Brady's up. He's asking for food. He likes this conversation too. It's really funny. So one of the conversations that I had yesterday with my client, Rachel, was about the pressure that we put on ourselves as moms to be perfect, and how we really need to cut ourselves a ton of slack, especially in the process of starting to take ownership of where we are not showing up, right? So if we're stressed, there's always a trigger, right? There's always a trigger to our stress, and that can cause an emotion. And those emotions usually are not pretty, right? But that's okay. I'm talking like this new story that I'm sharing about moms is to actually be okay with not being in the prettiness and like the exterior of like, oh, we have this perfect put together family. Well, no, that's not true, right? Under the surface, if there's unresolved, I call it like you just have unresolved junk that you're carrying around with you. It's like your bag of junk, and it shows up when you get stressed out. And what happens is it's simply showing up for you to acknowledge it. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had yesterday with my client was that when you accept it rather than push it away, because pushing your stress away actually manifests more stress, because it's always there, right? It's always somewhere in our energy, somewhere in our body. But when we acknowledge it, we're saying, it's like the child whose behavior, right? It kind of like, that they're acting out to get your attention, and if you're not giving them attention or you're giving them the wrong attention, then their behavior is going to continue. Or even if it stops for a moment, the behavior is it's always going to be a behavior that comes back. That's just human nature. But if you actually start to, love and accept and nurture that child when they are in their raw behavior, then that behavior gets the positive attention. And so that's the same thing with our stress, right? We want to close ourselves off when we're feeling these feelings of stress and divert, right? And go do something else. But it's actually that we have to accept them in, right? As, okay, so, like the stress is knocking on my door again. What is it about this that's trying to get my attention? Ownership of it, right? Because I'm going to tell you, when I realized that I was bringing so much inner fight and my bag of junk with me, to when I was teaching my students, to when I was parenting, and to when I was in a relationship with my ex, it was painful for me to see where I was showing up in this way. But that was the pivotal moment for me when I stopped blaming other people for my unhappiness and I started taking my power back to create ultimately what I know now to be my dream come true life. And it's something that I know, I got taught how to do this. I have leaders that I work with. I'm texting my coach almost every single day, checking in, and I consider myself to be, fairly evolved so that I can really flip a switch between not being in my stress and actually taking massive action towards creating my next level of dream come true life, which came through on Monday when I got really, really real with what I wanted. And so, what I want to share is that I've opened up my calendar for Saturday between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock, and you'll have to book a session during that time. They're half-hour sessions, strategy sessions about how you can start to transform your mom's stress. And I would love to spend some time with you. You can share what exactly is going on, where you're feeling stuck, because stress can just keep you stuck and spinning. And I was just showing Rachel last night or yesterday, when we stress, we spin in a circle and we dip down and we pull more from our bag of junk and we bring it back to the present moment. And then we dip down and we pick up stuff from our bag of junk, which is, all the thoughts and the false beliefs about who we are, which, that's another whole layer of work. And then we bring it back up into our present moment, and that causes conflict. And if you are living in any type of conflict, I really am here for you as a guide, as a mentor, to be able to just say, well, how do we interrupt that process? And how do we start reaching higher into what are the emotions, what are the actions that are going to help you create more peace in your life? Because peace is the way, the gateway to creating the life that you want. Peace is the life, it is the gateway, it's the doorway. And so right now, this doorway is open for anybody who views this video. And there's going to be a link below for you to book it's a free strategy session on how to transform your everyday mom stress so that you can create the power inside of yourself to break the cycle of spinning in your stress and wondering if it's ever going to get out of this cycle. To me, it felt like I was on a treadmill and I was waking up every single day doing the same thing and thinking the same thoughts and encountering the same stress. And that got really frustrating for me. And so the process that I use is, again, I take ownership. I stay out of blame, and I take ownership for my own actions and my own behavior and digging into my own bag of junk. And then whatever the feeling I'm feeling, I name it. So if it's anger, if it's fear, if it's frustration, if it's sadness, I say it out loud, and then I process the emotion through. Sometimes that comes through as anger. Sometimes that comes through as, yelling at my kids. Sometimes that comes through as crying. So what this has been enabled me to do is live a life of peace and joy and bliss, and in my relationships really, really, really be solid in a peaceful state when I am with almost everybody, right? Except for when I get triggered, and I still do get triggered. My kids trigger me, pretty much. That's what it is. My kids trigger me. And so they're my constant teachers. They are my constant teachers. They always mirror back to me what needs to be healed and acknowledged inside of me. And so after I process through those emotions, I don't judge myself. It's simply a passing through. It's like a passage of feeling of emotion, and then once it passes, it's gone, right? And then I get really clear on what I want. This is how it works with parenting. If I get triggered because my children are, watching TV or eating, snacking too much or not eating dinner, I do have an emotion that's associated with that. It's usually anger and frustration. I'm mom and dad at home, which is great. I love it. But what happens after I process through is I bring my kids together, or I talk to them individually, and I was like, look, this is what I want. This is the plan. Mom is in charge, right? And this is what we're going to do. And the thing about what I'm learning about my kids is they're actually not afraid of me. And they know that when my junk comes up, mom's just got her junk, because we've talked about it so many times. And when their junk comes up, they're just in their junk. And so we're really, really relaxed about it, and really we're open, and it just kind of flows. And once it processes through, boom, I look around and I see my kids, literally, they're helping each other brush their teeth, they're getting each other dressed, they're, helping each other with their breakfast. And it's just automatic that we're in this space of giving and receiving to each other. And that's the ultimate, I believe, as a parent, and to be able to have that. And I don't even need to say a word about it. It just happens. Again, this all started with me being completely stressed out, angry mom, to owning my stuff, to feeling the feeling, to processing the feeling through, to declaring what I want, and then taking action towards what I want. And if the action caused me more stress, right, I usually surrendered. So what that means is I stopped trying to control everything in my life. I surrendered, and that actually opened up amazing opportunity and potential for myself and my children. It showed me exactly what they were made of, who they are, and it all mirrored back to me because I was learning about who I was. And so part of this process of doing all of this actually shows you the doorway to your life's purpose. And to kind of tie this all up and bring it all back, your life purpose is connected to abundance. Your life purpose is connected to being able to earn an income, helping others, being in service. And so this is a really big opportunity. And again, I'm gonna wrap this up, and I'm gonna say thank you for everybody who joined me today. And there's gonna be a link in the comments. Oh, thank you, Janice. If you enjoy any part of this, and you feel like anybody can benefit from it, I would love for more moms to hear this message. I think it's solid gold for moms, to tell you the truth, because I think it's solid gold for moms and families, and I really think that this message is something that needs to be heard from more people. So if you could tag somebody in the comments, if you could, share on your page, this discussion is really all going to be about how moms can take ownership of their emotions, so that they can actually start to move forward through their emotions rather than being stuck. I think that being stuck is the leading cause of illness. I think that being stuck is the leading cause of why families have so much pressure on them. And and I do this work for moms, to be able to have them live a life of joy and peace, because I've lived in both situations. I would never for a moment want to go back to being a stressful mom. And so please share, please like this page, and give moms out there everything, every ounce of support that you can, because you never know who's looking for something like this. Okay? So again, the link for booking your free strategy session, how to transform your everyday mom stress into your power, is going to be in the comments. And I'm available Saturday. I've opened my doors. I'll be taking phone calls from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and that's Eastern Standard Time. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Janice, for joining.